You pick up your phone. You didn't decide to. Your thumb just moved. There was no notification, no buzz, no reason at all. And yet here you are unlocking a screen you checked 90 seconds ago. Why does your hand do this without asking you first? The obvious answer is that phones are addictive. Apps are designed to hook you. That part is true, but it's not the real answer. The real answer is far stranger. Your hand isn't responding to a notification. It's responding to instructions written into your brain roughly 2 million years ago, long before screens, before writing, before fire was even reliable. You are not checking your phone because you're weak-willed.
You are checking it because your brain still thinks it's foraging. Picture an early human walking through tall grass. She isn't looking for one thing, she's scanning for everything at once. A rustle that could be a snake, a shape that could be fruit, a distant shout that could be danger or could be dinner. Her brain didn't evolve to focus on a single reward, it evolved to constantly sample the environment for any scrap of new information, because new information used to mean survival. There's a name for this in behavioral ecology.
It's called optimal foraging theory, and it describes how animals decide when to keep searching a patch of land for food and when to move on to a new one. A brain that lingers too long in an empty patch starves. A brain that gives up too early misses a payoff that was seconds away. So evolution built something restless into you, a constant low hum of curiosity that pulls you toward the next patch, the next rustle, the next unknown, even when the current patch seems fine. That hum never got an off switch, it just got a new patch to search, your phone. This is where the story gets interesting and where a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz comes in.
In the 1990s, Schultz ran a series of experiments on monkeys, tracking a group of neurons that released dopamine. For years, scientists assumed dopamine was simply the brain's pleasure chemical. Schultz found something stranger. Dopamine didn't spike when the monkeys got a reward. It spiked when the reward was uncertain. The anticipation, not the outcome, was the drug. Think about what that means for a moment. Your brain isn't wired to reward you for finding food. It's wired to reward you for the possibility of finding food. The search itself feels good, almost independent of whether you find anything, which raises an uncomfortable question.
What happens when a device is built to generate that exact feeling, on command, every few seconds, forever? That's your phone. Every time you unlock it, you don't know what you'll find. Maybe nothing, maybe a message, maybe something that makes you laugh or something that makes you anxious. The outcome is unpredictable, and unpredictability is precisely what your dopamine system is starving for. This isn't a metaphor, it's a mechanism, and it was discovered decades before smartphones even existed. There's an older piece of science that fits perfectly here from a very different field. In the mid-1900s, the psychologist B.F. Skinner built a box. Inside it, a pigeon could peck a lever for food. Skinner noticed something odd. If the pigeon got food every single time it pecked occasionally, almost lazily. But if the food came at random intervals, unpredictable, sometimes right away, sometimes after a long wait, the pigeon pecked constantly, frantically. It couldn't stop. Skinner called this variable ratio reinforcement, and it turned out to be the single most powerful pattern for producing compulsive behavior ever documented. Slot machines run on it, so does your phone. You don't get a like every time you post. You don't get a text every time you check. The unpredictability isn't a flaw in the system. It's the entire engine driving your thumb back to the screen. Notice how closely this mirrors your ancestor in the grass. She didn't find food every time she scanned the horizon. Most scans turned up nothing. But every so often, a scan turned up something vital, and that rare payoff was enough to keep the scanning behavior alive across an entire species. Skinner's pigeon and your ancestor were running the same program, decades and millennia apart, without either of them knowing it. But dopamine and unpredictability only explain part of the pull. There's something older and more social buried in this behavior too. For most of human history, survival didn't just depend on finding food. It depended on knowing what your group was doing, who was allied with whom, who was angry, who might be a threat. This is where the anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research becomes relevant. Dunbar studied primate grooming, the hours monkeys spend picking through each other's fur, and proposed that human gossip evolved to serve the same function on a much larger scale. Grooming and gossip, Dunbar argued, aren't trivial behaviors. They're social maintenance. They tell you where you stand, who you can trust, and what's changed since you last checked. In small hunter-gatherer bands, staying updated on social information wasn't gossip for entertainment. It was survival intelligence. Missing an update could mean missing a shift in alliance that determined whether you ate this week or who stood beside you the next time danger showed up. Dunbar also proposed something called Dunbar's number, an estimate that humans can only maintain around 150 meaningful social relationships at once. That's roughly the size of a hunter-gatherer band. It's also, strangely, close to the number of people whose posts you actually recognize and react to in a feed of thousands. Your social radar is still tuned to a village. It just got handed a city.
Now look at your phone again. Every scroll is a miniature grooming session. Every notification is a rumor about your tribe. Somebody liked something, somebody said something, somebody you know did something without you. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a 200-person hunter-gatherer band and a social feed with 3,000 followers. It just knows there is new social information available, and it is built to want that information immediately. So 3 ancient systems are stacked on top of each other every time you glance at your screen. A foraging instinct that rewards you for searching, not finding.
A dopamine system tuned specifically to unpredictable outcomes, and a social monitoring instinct that treats every notification like tribal news. None of these systems know what a phone is. They only know their job, and their job hasn't changed in 2 million years. Here's the twist most people miss. This isn't a design flaw in you, it's a design success from your ancestors' perspective. The version of early humans who felt restless without new information, who kept scanning, who cared intensely about social updates, were more likely to survive and pass that wiring forward. You inherited a brain built by the ones who couldn't stop checking. The behavior wasn't a weakness then.
It was the reason your lineage made it this far. The problem is scale. In the environment your brain evolved for, new information arrived slowly. A rustle in the grass, a rumor traveling through camp over days. Your dopamine system was built for scarcity. Now it's operating inside infinite abundance, a feed engineered by people who understand Schultz's dopamine research and Skinner's variable reinforcement better than most neuroscientists do. They didn't invent a new instinct. They found the oldest one you have and built a machine that never stops feeding it. Think about the red dot, the small number that appears on an app icon. It carries no content of its own.
It doesn't tell you what's inside. It just tells you something is unresolved, something is unknown, and your ancient brain treats unresolved and unknown the exact same way it once treated a rustle in tall grass. You have to look. Not because you're curious in some idle sense, but because for 2 million years, ignoring an unresolved signal in your environment was how you ended up as someone else's dinner. This is why willpower alone rarely works against your phone. You're not fighting a habit, you're fighting a system millions of years older than the concept of habit, one that helped a scanning, socially anxious, reward-seeking ancestor stay alive long enough to have you.
Understanding that doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does explain why deleting an app feels like fighting your own hand and why the fight so often loses. Consider how this plays out beyond social apps. You refresh your email even when you're not expecting anything important. You reload a web page that hasn't changed. You check the weather app twice in an hour on a clear day. None of these behaviors are really about information. They're about that same old patch-switching instinct, asking a simple, ancient question. Has anything changed since I last looked? For most of human history, the answer to that question mattered enormously, and checking cost almost nothing.
A glance across the savannah, a quick look over your shoulder. Now the checking still costs almost nothing, but the world checking is aimed at has grown to an almost infinite size, updating every second, in every direction, forever. It also explains why silence feels so uncomfortable to you now. A quiet phone isn't neutral to your nervous system. It reads as an information vacuum, and an information vacuum used to be dangerous. No news from camp could mean the camp was fine. It could also mean something happened and no one told you yet. Your ancestors couldn't afford to assume the best.
So neither can the oldest parts of your brain. Even now, even when the silence is just your phone sitting face down on a table while you eat dinner. So the next time your thumb moves on its own toward a screen that hasn't buzzed, remember what it's actually doing. It isn't checking a notification. It's walking through tall grass, scanning for a rustle, listening for news from the tribe, chasing a reward that was never about being found, only about the search. Your hand was never impulsive. It was ancient. And maybe that's the real answer to the question you started with. You don't check your phone because something is wrong with your willpower.
You check it because for 2 million years, the ones who kept checking were the ones who survived.